This is Michael Popok, and by the looks of things, it's Legal AF After Dark. We've got a MAGA Congress who can't get anything done for the American people except bogus hearings, fake, fraudulent hearings. We got a new one, whether Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, should be held in contempt because he refuses to turn over the audio recording of the President Biden interview with Robert Hur, the special counsel, back in October, where he gave a 2-day voluntary interview about his handling of classified documents after he was vice president and before he was president. Has nothing to do with the matters before Congress, has nothing to do with his work as president. It's not high crimes and misdemeanors for an impeachment, but they want the audio. Why? For political purposes, to throw it in ads, to embarrass President Biden. President Biden has smartly, wisely, following the counsel of his White House Office of Legal Counsel, has asserted presidential executive immunity to avoid having the audio turned over to Congress. They already have the transcript. They already have the written transcript. We break it all down on a podcast we like to call Legal AF. Take a listen. And so now, while I have the luxury of having Dina with me, let's dive into Merrick Garland and what's going on with the food fight in MAGA. I mean, listen, they can't do anything right. They can't legislate. They haven't passed a darn thing that helps the American family or their pocketbook. Any issues around the kitchen table are completely ignored. They don't care about the American people. They're a do-nothing Congress, and so they kill their time with phony contempt hearings and impeachment hearings and Hunter Biden hearings and revenge porn against Hunter Biden and stealing and profiting from the theft of Ashley Biden's diary. And if this is the Congress that you want, this is like an ad campaign for the Congress. Vote red. Vote red on November 5. And so it really got, if you've only seen clips of it, you may not know the context. So I wanted to give the context. Here's the context. Over a month ago, almost 2 months ago, the actual Robert Hur special counsel report, after a year and a half of investigation, finding no crimes committed by Joe Biden for the time period interstitial between the time he was the vice president and before he was president, and what he did with some documents that he took with him after he left office, that report already came out. It was 335 pages. And in it, I didn't love everything in it, but, I don't blow smoke or sunshine either. And there were parts of it that I was like, did he really have to get into this particular fact at that moment in his recommendation not to prosecute? But he did. And so we talked about it at length, and sort of the waters calmed around it, and we're done. Then the transcript came out, public. You can go find it right now on Google. I'll put up a link in my X account. They'll take you right to you want to read boring 2.5 days of testimony by under oath with a court reporter of Joe Biden. You can. It's all right there. But that wasn't good enough for MAGA. They want the audio. Why? Obviously, they want to use it for political purposes. They want to cut and paste it and do deep fake commercials and ads for Trump and try to, a couple of times when there's a verbal gaffe, as if their guy isn't verbal gaffing enough. He can barely get a sentence out when he's at a rally. He can't read his teleprompter. But they want to try to do the same thing against Joe Biden, so that's the reason for the audio. So the Office of Legal Counsel, which is the internal law firm for the president, whoever occupies the office, analyzed the request. All the other subpoenaed documents were given over and cooperation was given. Remember, we have a separation of 3 co-equal branches of government here. In order for Congress to do fact-finding and have investigations, there has to be a legitimate purpose. The purported legitimate purpose of asking for the audio is they're trying to get to the bottom of whether they should impeach Joe Biden, which I don't even understand. And that's why it's a canard, because it has to be a high crime and misdemeanor while he was in office. Well, this is pre-president and post-vice president. So I don't get how it could be a high crime and misdemeanor that they could even bring an impeachment proceeding over, which is where they get their only power from. Putting that aside for a minute, that never stopped the twin Jims, Jim Jordan and Jim Comer, from using their oversight committee and their judiciary committee from going after the Biden family, right? Why not? So now they want the audio. We want the audio. And we're going to hold Merrick Garland in contempt for his refusal to turn it over. Except Merrick Garland and the Office of Legal Counsel recommended to President Biden that he assert executive privilege because they're worried about the deleterious impact on future investigations if they have to turn over the audio, which has no legal purpose in the investigation, only a political one. And Joe Biden, as the president in the office, asserted executive privilege, meaning this is all a show because there'll never be a contempt proceeding against Merrick Garland despite it coming out of Congress. Comment on that, and then I got to show the food fight that was started by Marjorie Taylor Greene as the oversight committee headed by James Comer was voting on the resolution for the contempt. Both committees voted, Judiciary and Oversight, but the food fight broke out, led by Marjorie Taylor Greene in a disrespectful way in the Oversight Committee vote. But talk about the whole contempt thing from your perspective, and then we'll end with the clip.
To the Merrick Garland point. I'm so glad, first of all, that they asserted executive privilege because, lots of times I feel like Democrats really do try to follow the law and by the books and are overly accommodating, and you can't be accommodating with MAGA. And so, they have the transcript, as you said, and how you balance executive privilege is balancing, because like you said, we have separation of powers. It's like the importance basically between the seeker and the holder of the information. So is the information so important to Congress to kind of override this privilege of the presidency? And the answer is no, because they have the transcript. Maybe if they didn't have the transcript, you could argue that it was essential to know the words, but they have the words. So the importance of hearing it over reading it, even according to Republicans, they really are saying, like, we need to be able to assess, like, his state of mind to know whether or not he's capable of being president. And very easy answer to that is like, well, then just go have a meeting with him, right? Like, he's right there. He's very easy to talk to. You can go talk to him and assess his mental ability anytime you want. You don't have to listen to this specific recording back in September. In fact, you can argue that it's maybe no longer relevant. His mental state of mind today for how he's functioning in the government is more relevant. So they don't have a strong argument at all for why it's so important to have the audio versus the writing. And I think Merrick Garland making a good point too of like, President Biden did this voluntarily. The last thing you want is a president who's voluntarily doing this, not to be able to have some protection of executive privilege. And to this oversight committee, I know we're going to be looking at the tape, but they took their vote so late because so many of those MAGA members of the committee showed up at that New York criminal trial that they had to travel back to DC, and they did it so late. And, if I were their constituents, I would be mad that they were spending time on this criminal trial instead of in DC, in the business. It just goes to show, like, I think, again, the abuse of power that's coming out in the courtroom. And here they are. They can't even show up in time to vote on what they think is so important because they were too busy showing up to his trial.
Yeah, that's a very good observation, Dina, about the lesser included offense. I'm glad you remembered to answer it, and the connection that you made about MAGA not being able to be really credible or honest about wanting to be legislators because they're busy doing being political props for Donald Trump and their tryouts for the vice presidency and all of that. And on the issue about the compos mentis of Joe Biden and his mental ability, first of all, that's not the grounds for Congress doesn't assert the 25th Amendment. The 25th Amendment to remove a president is done by his cabinet and done by people that can vote for that. You can't, it's not a high crime and misdemeanor, even if you thought that Joe Biden had some sort of mental difficulty. That's not high crime and misdemeanor. So again, I don't think that if that is their defense for it, it only proves the point of the White House, the Office of Legal Counsel. And for those that don't follow it as closely as we do, the Office of the OLC is very respected In fact, the United States Supreme Court, I wouldn't call it the 10th Justice, but the United States Supreme Court, when they make their rulings about things, often refer to the OLC's position on as the definitive position, at least of the executive branch, and give it a lot of merit. When we heard the debate, the oral argument on the immunity issue, there was a lot of discussion about the OLC and the Office of Legal Counsel's memos about immunity and prosecutions. And that's what we're talking about, that just to educate, we're talking about that same thing right here. The contempt proceeding and the two resolutions coming out of the Oversight Committee and the Judiciary Committee, the twin Jims, against effectively against Joe Biden. And I said at the Oversight Committee that there was a food fight that broke out, totally inappropriate, beneath even, as Jamie Raskin put it, beneath even you, Marjorie Taylor Greene, in her attack of a fellow member before they went to the vote. And we have a nice compilation clip here that Salty put together for us that I think it's important for our audience to see. So let's play that.
I'd like to know if any of the Democrats on this committee are employing Judge Merchan's daughter.
Please tell me what that has to do with Merrick Garland.
Is she a porn star?
Oh, Goldman. That's right. He's advising. Okay.
He's advising who? What? Do you know what we're here for? You know we're here about AG.
I don't think you know what you're here for.
Well, you the one talking about.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No,
what you're
ain't
reading.
nothing.
Hold on.
Listen.
Order.
Mr. Chairman,
That's beneath
would
even
you
you,
please
Mr.
regain
Beneath
order
even
of your
you.
committee?
Order.
I do have a point of order, and I would like to move to take down Ms. Greene's words. That is absolutely unacceptable. How dare you attack the physical appearance of another person?
Are your feelings hurt?
Her words down.
Aw.
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play. with
Baby
me.
girl? I don't think
We are going to
so.
move, and we're going to take your words down. Thank
I
you very
second
much.
that motion.
So who will have to fail? Okay. Ms. Green agrees to strike her words.
I believe she
Chair
needs to
recognizes
apologize. No. She
Perry.
needs to
Okay,
apologize.
hold on. Then after Mr. Perry's going to be recognized, then Ms. Green
I'm not
has 4 minutes and
apologizing.
21
Well,
seconds.
then you're
reserve
not
the right to
striking your
object.
words.
I am
Mr.
not
Chair,
apologizing.
Now let's go. Come on, guys.
Why don't you debate me?
Mr. Chairman, the
it's
minority.
pretty self-evident.
You're not.
Yeah, you're
out
not.
of order.
You don't have enough
You're out of order.
intelligence.
Chair recognizes Mr. Perry.
Okay, move to strike
I'd like to
I
strike
move to
those
strike the
words
lady's
as well.
words.
I would like to
Order.
strike
The
those
lady's
as well.
words again.
That's 2 requests to strike. That's 2 requests to strike.
Oh, they cannot take the words.
There's another motion to strike her words again. Please
All right.
get
Okay.
your members under
Here's
control.
the correct apology. Ms. Green, do you agree to unanimous consent to strike your words?
I repeat again for the second time. Yes, I'll strike
right.
my words,
That-
but I'm not
all right.
apologizing.
Without objection. Without
Not
objection.
apologizing.
Chair recognizes 21 seconds.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Who's
It's me.
Ms. Crockett?
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
Chairman, I make a motion to strike those words.
I don't think that's
Hold
a
on.
I'm
parliament.
trying to find clarification on what qualifies.
Chairman, motion to
I had
strike
no
those
idea
words.
what you just said.
We're not gonna do this. Look, you guys earlier literally just
You just voted to do
Y'all did
it.
it first, so you don't want to talk about it.
Voted to do it.
Order.
I'm trying to get
Okay.
clarification.
Look at calm down.
No, because this
I
is
would
what
like
y'all
to get
do.
through proceeding.
So I'm trying
Hey,
to get
Ms.
clarification.
Crockett, you're not
Y'all wanna
recognized.
play
Ms.
games.
Crockett.
I can't hear you with your
And you
yelling.
don't want me
Calm
to
down.
Be,
Can
no,
you please calm
don't
down?
tell me to calm down.
Calm down.
Because y'all
Please
talk
calm
noise,
down.
and then you
You're
can't
out of
take
control.
It. 'Cause
Well, that was an ad campaign for the Republican Party. Vote red in November if you want more of that. Jamie Raskin, I thought, was biting his tongue. He's there as the Democratic minority leader next to Comer. Comer can't figure out, ranking leader, thank you. Comer can't figure out what's going on. So he's got his parliamentarians behind him talking in his ear because he doesn't know how to run a meeting. And then you've got Marjorie Taylor Greene that decides that it's a great look to have a white Georgia representative go after a black representative female from California on in the congressional record. And so What did that lead to? That led to a vote that was dominated, by the majority Republicans who voted to move along the contempt matter against Merrick Garland, which will go nowhere because the Department of Justice will not take their that's all they can do. The good news, and I do this on a hot take, the good news is Congress can't go out to court themselves. They are a branch of government. They can make a recommendation and they can make resolutions all day long, but then the Department of Justice of the executive branch has to do something about it. And they're not going to do anything about it because they already have a White House Office of Legal Counsel opinion. And the Attorney General has said that he's not, and the executive privilege has been asserted. And that is the end of it. It doesn't even if it went to a court, the courts of the DC Circuit are never going to find, once an assertion of executive privilege has been made, that Merrick Garland is in contempt. So even if it got out to court, it wouldn't lead to anything. But we were just watching the disgusting, I said on my hot take, sure, 150 years ago, one member of Congress used a cane to almost beat to death another member of Congress, but I thought we were beyond that. And this imagery of racist comments by Matt Gaetz, stand back and stand by, upside down flags on Justice Alito, a white member of Congress on the right side going after a black member of Congress about her appearance. When does it end? There's a simple answer to it. And I'm going to be very frank with people, point blank. I don't care whether you like Joe Biden or not. I don't care whether you have to hold your nose to vote for him. If you're sort of like still hung up about, I hate both of them. What should I don't care. Is this the democracy and the government that you want? Does this represent your morals and your ethics? If it does, then you know who to vote for. If it doesn't, and you're not concerned about what happens at the United States Supreme Court, when inevitably there's going to be more openings, either by retirement or otherwise, while the next president is in office, and you want a 7-2 right-wing majority, you think the rulings are bad now on religious freedom, on reproductive rights, on immigrant rights, on criminal rights, on abortion, on gun control? Wait till there's a 7-2, 8-1. So it's just, I hadn't really seen the full length of that clip. Now I got all hot and bothered. What's your impression of what devolved there, and what does it mean for our audience and people that are watching us that have not yet made their decision about what party they want to vote for come November?
Oh, gosh. Well, yes. Voting obviously makes such a big difference because if Republicans aren't in charge, they're not going to be chair of the committees, and that kind of thing doesn't happen, right? But Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's like she needs to just leave and go to Fox because she can't obviously act in the decorum that the House needs a member to act in. As a female out in the media, people like to comment on how women look, right? This is like a typical sexist thing. And it usually is when somebody doesn't like what you have to say, but they can't come up with an intellectual argument that's good enough. And so it will devolve instead to how you look. It's like goes back to this elementary school sexist thing. So that's what Marjorie Taylor Greene did. She couldn't come up because the Representative Crockett was right. That it had nothing to do with Judge Merchan's daughter. And Marjorie Taylor Greene couldn't come up with an intellectual comeback to that. So what are you going to do? You're going to fall back on some sexist thing about how a woman looks. That's like, it's so bothersome to me as a female, like where we are in this country, like the rollback of abortion rights, like the rollback of this idea of whether or not women can have access to healthcare. Like in Idaho, they're having to, they're having to air vac women out of Idaho because they might die and they're too afraid to take care of the woman in the hospital. And then we are in the House and a woman is going to attack another woman about her looks. It's like disgusting. It's sad, to be honest. It's really sad. Like I was really hoping for Hillary Clinton to become the first female president. Like I obviously voted for her. I brought my daughter in the voting booth, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is where we're at. And it's certainly not where we're at. And it's gotten so much worse than that. And it's really deeply disappointing as a female that Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to go there. But I have to say, having somebody like AOC in my corner in a moment like that would be like a dream scenario. I love how she, that Representative Crockett didn't have to come to her own defense. I mean, she chose to do it later, and she chose to do it in the most elegant way. It was awesome. That alliteration she came up with on the spot was like awesome. But in the moment, another woman came to her defense. And that's the Democratic Party today, like women having other women's backs. We're fighting for our right to reclaim choices of our own bodies. And there's AOC, who's got a lot of political power, is becoming more and more politically powerful within the Democratic Party, jumping in, fired up, having Representative Crockett's back. We cannot do anything about the Marjorie Taylor Greens except for vote. But we can also support the women in our party who are doing a phenomenal job, like AOC and Representative Crockett. And I think Marjorie Taylor Greene took that shot at Representative Crockett because she's been getting a lot of attention because she is so eloquent on that floor. She's actually from Texas, not California, but she is
I said
so
California. Sorry.
Yeah. So she's so eloquent. She's making so many good points. Marjorie Taylor Greene sees a rising star and she's just jealous, right? So for every other woman out there who's ever been disparaged about how they look or whatever, it usually comes from some sort of jealousy. And she's jealous of her rising power because in a few years, hopefully we won't hear about Marjorie Taylor Greene anymore. Her chance to vote Mike Johnson out and that failure was such a huge embarrassment. I don't know. Hopefully we're seeing like the peak and the beginning of her downfall. But Representative Crockett, we're just seeing the beginning. And I think that bothers Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, I almost I love Comer's response. Just a point of clarification. So if I made a comment about a butch body, blonde, bad bitch, and Comer's like, oh, now what? What now?
Right. It just went right over his head. It just went right over his head.
And you can see Jamie Raskin, who knew what was going on, sort of like suppressing a laugh behind his thing. He's running right now on the network with an interview with Michael Cohen, talk about all the worlds colliding on MeidasTouch.
Right.
You're finding it right now. There's an interview running right now. Welcome back. We do that podcast every Wednesday and Saturday in only one place, MeidasTouch Network on their YouTube right here. Free subscribe to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel. And then also you can pick us up on audio podcast platforms of your choice. If you like hard-hitting analysis, the intersection of law and politics by lawyers who know what they're talking about, then you've come to the right place. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting. Heary, heary, Legal AF Law Breakdown is now in session. Go beyond the headlines and get a deep dive into the important legal concepts you need to know and we discuss every day on Legal AF. Exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, all for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. Join us at patreon.com/legalaf. That's patreon.com/legalaf.